stand and let's honor our nation with a great state of Texas. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And if you would please remain standing and bow your heads with me. I'm going to offer a quick little opening prayer, and then I want you to, we're going to have a moment of silence to honor those who are not able to be with us this morning. We've got a display table set up front. If you haven't stopped by and mentally paid your respects, please do. Lord God, I want to offer thanks for the men and women that are here today, for those who have stood in the breach, for those that have supported those that stood in the breach, and for those that have stayed at home and pushed things forward, even if it's in the form of prayers and encouragement. We especially want to lift up the people of Ukraine. We want to lift up all of the folks that are trying to defend their homes, those that may be thrown into harm's way. We ask your protection on all of them. And we ask your protection on the President of the United States, the United States of America, and the great state of Texas. Amen.
Amen.
And if you would have that moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. Please be seated. So I asked Kathy to throw this on there. Would you get that back?
I don't know. Has everybody signed in? No.
There's a sign-up sheet running around. If you haven't signed up, please do. One of the things I asked Kathy to do was throw introductions on there because I always forget to throw that in the room. So if you would, just real quick, say your name, branch of military, if you want to talk era or conflict that you were in, yeah, please do so. Mine's Karl Monger. I'm an Army veteran, Desert Storm, served from 83 to 93. So let's put you on the spot, new guy.
My name's Sean Russell. I was Air Force. Joined 98, got out of 01. Actually, I was peacetime. I was stationed out in Ellis. I had it pretty easy, so not too much to say about there. Much respect to everybody who did actually serve and had to see some of the real stuff going on out there.
Glad you're here.
Brandon Williams, Air Force, 0104. I unfortunately didn't get to deploy. I was the NCOSC of the Honor Guard at the time, so when my unit deployed, I actually got asked to stay back to help lead the funeral. So.
Kathy Jones, Army, from 87 to 97.
I'm post Navy, 62 to 65, Mediterranean, keeping a Russian horde away.
You should still be over there.
Phil Spies, U.S. Navy, Korea, 1951, 1955, battling the streets of Norfolk.
You were supporting my grandfather, who was in Korea then.
Mark Bartell, United States Army from 1970 to 73, and I served the majority of my time in Germany on the East German border.
Then appeared in Army 68, 72, Vietnam.
Scott Spence retired as a major after 15 years, but they gave me 20-year retirement. Kind of cool thing in reserves. Clinton passed a law if your unit was downsizing and going away, you had between 15 and 20. And I had 15 years in one day. You take a 20-year retirement and go. So I did just that, but I did get a chance to go to Bosnia for the Operation No Flight that they'd like to have over grain. I did that 3 times over Bosnia. So that was a little bit of fun. Flew the A-10 15 years.
Yeah.
Need you back.
Hello everyone, my name's Tom. I'm a post 9/11 veteran. I served in the Air Force from 2002 to 2017. Spent some time at Cannon Air Force Base. So that's where I worked with the Reaper Squadron there. We did some stuff there, so good to see y'all.
Thanks for coming. You got to introduce your old man there.
I'm Zach.
I wasn't talking about Zach. Introduce your son too. We want to recognize. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. This is my son. What's your name?
Thanks for coming.
I'm Zach Swallows, served in the Marine Corps from 08 to 12. Deployed campaign in Afghanistan 2011 with the 5th Marines, and now I work for GallantFew. I'm here.
Lewis Selden, Navy 6572, pilot. I was in the Patrol Squadron 67 to 70 on the East Coast. We just come back from Westpac, so I said West Mississippi. Spent 2 years in Pensacola instructing a few months at a time.
Mylan George in the United States Army. Helicopter gunships in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, but we weren't there.
Glad you're here, Mylan. Glad you're here. Mylan, by the way, he said if anybody needs a hotspot, he has a new pacemaker installed, so the password is what, Mylan.g or something like that.
Chad Berry, United States Marine Corps, 2008 to 2012, helmet Afghanistan, and then Department of Defense, working on Russia issues from 2016 to 2019. So.
JC Chief Campbell, I was in the Air Force, US Air Force JTAC from 85 to 2015, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, and then I've been there again. So I'm just glad to be back here and getting back to this group.
Glad you're back.
Hey, I go by AK, Iraq, Afghanistan, played a little bit, now with the Countdown Warriors, reintegration.
AK, glad you're here.
Thank you.
Kelly passed away. I did not serve. I'm a patriot, and I'm so thankful for all of you who have served.
She's the glue that brings a lot of us together right there.
Here, here.
Amen.
Downgrade WW2 Vintage.
Skip Haislip, Army, 66 to 68. Cool thing that I've done is I've found 125 of 185 graduates from OCS. 150 of them went to Vietnam. We've had 2 national reunions and a 3rd plan.
Cool.
Nice.
Great.
Sounds like a book.
My name's Amy Nolan. I didn't serve, but I'm here to support you guys. Carl's wife, Sarah, told me about this organization, and I wanted to learn more about it. I'm a 25-year citizen of Trophy Club, and I was a teacher here in the town for about that time. So thanks for all y'all done here. I'm on the shoot.
I'm a rather half of my I didn't serve either, but I have family that were in the Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force, all the divisions, National Guard. Just a big supporter of you guys and appreciate everything you guys have done.
Jonathan Carlin, Army, 01 to 05, Iraq. Today's the 19th anniversary of the end of hostilities. Today.
Eric Bryant, retired Army, Special Operations, pretty much every conflict since '96.
Great group we have today. Thanks to everybody for being here. Some first timers, some long timers, some old timers. But I didn't mean to look at you, Don, when I said that. I'm sorry. I was kind of aiming for Mylan. Everybody hit the sign up sheet. If you didn't, just holler. Every Monday night until the end of April, we're doing this GallantFew open discussion group. So if anybody wants to come, if you want to come and talk about some of the things as we're getting to know each other, he has tried some different groups around the area, didn't maybe work for you. This discussion group might be one that you'd like. After I get out of school at the end of this month, we're going to shift it so it's a little earlier or maybe on a different day. But right now, that is literally the only time during the work week that I have available that I can lead that group. So it starts 7:15. Usually there's only 2 or 3 that come. You all are certainly welcome to come. The link is on the Metroport Veteran Association Facebook page, and I think Zach has emailed it out in the newsletter.
Meets where?
Online.
Where? Virtual. Oh.
Zoom. It's a Zoomer. Memorial Day Committee. Kelly, are you talking Memorial Day today? Or
I feel since Emily's not here, so we are planning on our annual Memorial Day ceremony at 10 a.m. at Medland Cemetery on Memorial Day. So, and Kathy, we volunteered her to have a role. So hopefully Victus is going to come back, and they're the motorcycle club that's awesome and always helps us with.
Put him on the spot, I like it.
I know. So yeah, just put that on your date, 10 a.m. Memorial Day at Medland Cemetery.
Last year we had driving rainstorm and like 250 people that came. And so no rain this year, so let's pack it out. And one of the things that I'm really proud about what this group has done with that ceremony is we've changed it from a miniature Veterans Day observance to a true memorial observance. And when you have a veteran or a family member that stands up that talks about the person that gave their life for this country and tells you who they were, what they loved to do, who their friends were, that's really, really powerful. And that brings the meaning of Memorial Day right back to everybody. And I think that's a kind of a sacred obligation of all veterans to do that. So please come, bring people, and it'll be good. And if you want to talk, I think we might still have room for a speaker. So if you want to come and talk about somebody, and a lot of people in this room have already done that, please do. Please let us know so we can get you on the agenda. Okay, so get out your phones and see where it says Classy Awards Finalists, awards.classy.org/finalists. So if y'all would get out your phones and go find that website. I got a captive audience here. I'm going to get 20 votes at least. So I learned this when I was running for Trophy Club Town Council too. So when you hit that link, if you scroll down a little ways, you'll see GallantFew is one of the organizations that Classy has selected. It's like a People's Choice Award. We don't get anything out of it other than recognition. And there might be some money that they're going to grant. I don't remember if they are or not. But we'll certainly get some recognition, which will help us out. So if you go down there, find GallantFew, click on GallantFew, and then at the top of the next page, you should see a vote for this organization link. And if you click on that link, it will pull up a box to put your email address in. And you can use your work email, your school email, your personal email, your other email, your secret email.
What was your email, Carl?
I already used all of mine. So I voted like 5 times already. I also learned that one. No, I'm not going to say that. So if you would, do that. We appreciate your support. And keep your phones out, because I'm going to have you do one more thing here while I'm talking. We would like to have nominations for Metroport Veteran of the Year. So if you know anybody that's making a difference in the community, I think I already said Zach and me are not eligible for nomination. Identify somebody who you think that we should lift up and recognize. We'll get their name on the little town marquee, and we'll do something at the town council meeting to recognize them, and we'll just honor them. So one of the reasons that I want to do this is it's another way for us to tell the citizens of our community who the veterans are that are here, what they've done, and the impact that they continue to make. And when you think about the population of veterans now, out of every 100 U.S. citizens, there are maybe 4 that actually have served in the military, and there's only about 1 out of 100 that deployed post 9/11. So the population is shrinking. It used to be, when all the World War II veterans were still around, it used to be 10%. So people don't remember, and they don't know, and that's another way that we can educate them. Additional announcements. Luke?
Does anybody remember the USS Liberty? USS Liberty?
I do.
Was it built when the Constitution was built? So like same time?
How about the USS Pueblo?
You've heard of that?
I remember the Pueblo. Is it still over there in Korea?
Yes. The Liberty, there was 46 ships that were named after the town of Liberty. I guess it could have been Liberty, Kansas. I'm not sure which town named it. But they were intelligence ships. This book, and there's many out there, a contact of mine sent me this book. It's about the Liberty. He was a helicopter pilot on the carrier Med. The USS Liberty was attacked by our friendly Israelis during the 6-day war. Shot up, and by communication was retained. The Israeli pilots were enjoying shooting up our sailors and killing, and they intended to sink the ship. The carrier of the med, and this guy was on to send me this book, Launch Fighters and Recall, and that's never been explained. He, his helicopter flew to Liberty, picked up the dead and moved the back to the carrier. Okay, to this day, the Israelis never answered this atrocity. Read books or just look it up on the internet, USS Liberty.
Somebody's trying to come in behind you. I just told him to go the other door.
Carl, I don't know if this lady from my office called you. Did the lady from my office call you?
I don't know. What's her name?
Dusty Marceau?
No.
No, I told her to call you. We had a guy that does some work for us at Trophy Realtors as a plumber who said he wanted to do something for a veteran that needed help as far as that kind of around his house. So,
okay.
if anybody knows anybody, call Carl and he'll get in touch with Dusty. She'll get in touch with you.
Cool. Other announcements? Welcome.
I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Whirling Girls, in the Rotary Wing Aviation community and all that, but I was at the Hell Expo a couple weeks back and talked with them. They basically said that they have all kinds of money out there for scholarships for female aviators in the community and their families. So if that's something that anybody knows, a female Rotary Wing pilot or crew member like that, let them know that the Whirling Girls have a lot of scholarship money for them. And please take advantage of those.
Eric, thanks. Logan, introduce yourself real quick. You missed us running around the room. If you would, we said name, branch of service, maybe something about you.
I'm retired Sergeant Logan Burnett, United States Army. One of the survivors of the Florida shooting in 2009. Just came by to talk to Carl and get to know you guys and be part of the group. I really appreciate you guys showing up.
I Googled your name and you threw a chair at the shooter.
Yeah, a table.
A table, okay.
Big old table.
Yeah.
I'd throw a bullet if I had it.
Any other announcements? Glad you're here, by the way. Other announcements? All right, well, I wanted to take a minute this morning and talk a little bit about GallantFew. First, MVA breakfast, mark your calendars, second Saturday each month. And do we have a speaker for the next one, Zach?
May, yes, we do. I've got the name, Sarah Gale, assigned it. I will find out. Shoot out there.
Okay. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. Sarah Gale turned in her notice. She's not going to be the GallantFew Development Director. Her last day is Friday. It's all good. There's nothing bad associated with it. She's just got a bunch of life stuff that she needs to focus on. So I certainly understand that. So if you know of anybody that wants to be involved or learn more about development stuff around here, I'm willing to talk to them. It's one of the reasons I want to talk to them today. And I guess I'm the speaker. Okay. Oh, we don't need to do that.
I'm going to go to your presentation. Want me to go over?
Yeah, please do. I thought maybe you'd pulled them in, so.
No, sorry.
No worries.
Change the format.
Yeah, actually, you Trophy Club residents, your tax dollars paid for that headshot because that's the one they take for town council and they stick on the website. I'm like, I'm going to take a copy of that.
Money well spent. Money well spent.
So, yeah, exactly. So, and I didn't recognize we got a couple other elected officials. Where'd you go? In the back, but back there. Dennis Sheridan, town council. Am I missing anybody else? Okay. You're running for re-election. Do you want to take a quick moment and do a plug?
No. Yes, I've been on the mud for 4 years in May, and my seat is open, so I'm running again. I do have two opponents running against me. You will not see any signs out for me. I don't believe it's wasting money in my opinion, so just spread the word. So now I started as the secretary treasurer for the past 2 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Good for your service. Dennis is not running for election, so you don't know.
No, you might bring up that you do have, like Kelly said, an election in May.
You want to talk about that?
Well, it's just be aware that there'll be an election. You have early voting starting in middle of April sometime, and just vote. Then we have council people. We have some elections that are with competition, so you need to make yourself informed on who you're voting for. Okay.
Yeah, that's the most important thing is getting
informed. And she's the one incumbent that's going on this year.
There's still the seats open.
And there are also town council positions opening up. So please,
Well, one's done, because she didn't have a
But there is
there's one.
there's reason.
Yeah, and I think the CCPD renewal is also on there.
That is correct.
It's an important thing to understand, right? Because there's a lot of publicity that's going on town around, if you look on Facebook, about the flock camera system and that kind of stuff, paid for by CCPD, right? It's a fraction of tax dollars the state mandates that communities can use for crime prevention activities. People are saying, we're wasting town money doing that. My opinion is no. I won't go into all of that, but get educated on what that particular issue is. If you don't like the system and you don't like the CCPD, you can vote against renewing it. If you like it, you can vote for it. Yes?
Those are great. As a former police officer, those are the ones that do the license.
Takes a portion of the sales tax that used to go to the general fund. Years ago, this was created, and put it into a special fund that is strictly for the policing part of it. If you were to get rid of it, you don't get rid of the funds. They just go into the general council for the politicians, and I'm a politician, all right, to spend as they want. This way, we know that it's part of being a safe community in that we've designated it must go to that. So eliminating it doesn't eliminate the funds, doesn't lower your taxes, just reallocate where the money goes.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification on that, because it doesn't go, the tax doesn't go away. Right, but it's also sales tax. So it's people that come through the community that dine at the restaurants that, that's one of the things behind that is we need more police because we have more restaurants. CCPD can help. All right, so anyway, moving right along. A little about me, Desert Storm, my last assignment on active duty, I was the Assistant Operations Officer for the 1st Ranger Battalion. And that's, before that, during actually Desert Storm, I was the Personnel Officer. So that is my killer pack section. I've got an awards clerk there, I've got a legal clerk there, so they're all looking really, really tough, right? But they're all Rangers, and most of them have Ranger tabs. So it was really cool. And if you look way over my left shoulder there, way off in the back, you see those little brown specks? That's a Ranger company in an assembly area. That's how open, I know a lot of you have been to the desert. Wow. That's how open that terrain is. It is absolutely stunning how open it is. The picture on the top left there, a good friend of mine and mentor all the way on that side of the picture, Joe Hotel. At that time he was a major, he retired as a 4-star, he replaced Admiral McRaven as the commander of all special operations, and then he was the CENTCOM commander until he retired a couple of years ago. Next to him is a guy named Burleson. He's a 2-star now. Then there's me. The next one over, kind of in the middle, is a guy named Odom. He's I want to say 3-star now. And the guy at the very, very top, in front of those 2 windows, that's Marty Martin. Marty was killed in Vietnam. He was one of the last Americans who was killed in Vietnam. He was this happened like a month before 9/11. He was the incoming commander for the POW MIA recovery operation. And so they would go out, excavate crash sites, try to find identification, bones, tags, whatever, so they could bring closure to some families and bring those warriors home. And he and the outgoing commander were doing a left seat, right seat thing, and they were flying in some old Russian-made helicopter that had a mechanical malfunction, fell out of the sky. And so one of the last Americans to die in Vietnam. It's interesting because hardly anybody knows about that, right? That in 2001 we had several Americans that died in Vietnam. There's another general in there somewhere, but I'm not sure where he is. Anyway, I had the opportunity to serve with some absolutely amazing people that still continue to influence me today. October 29th, 1992, the 1st Ranger Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion, the 22nd Special Tactics Squadron were doing a big combined operation that was supposed to be a rehearsal for a real-world thing overseas. We were supposed to go snatch something. And Colin Powell, who was Secretary of State at that time, was actually on the objective to observe what we were doing. Middle of the night, Great Salt Lake, terrible rainstorm. An MH-60 Air Force Special Operations Black Hawk flew into the Great Salt Lake, and it killed 12. The only survivor was the pilot, because he was still clear of the wreckage. My battalion commander, Ken Stouse, is the picture up there. I think he was 39 years old when he died. But I always like to, when I talk to people, I like to remind them the true cost of sacrifice, right? His son now is about 40 years old, has kids. Now, I've followed them over time, but Ken stopped right there. He didn't get a chance to have a lot of the life experiences that we went on to have. If you ever go to Salt Lake City, drive across the causeway to Antelope Island, and that monument overlooks the spot in the lake where the helicopter crashed. So after I left the military, and I left because of that helicopter crash, right? That changed my order of priorities. We're coming post Desert Storm. Hey, when I look historically, the Army goes to war every 20 years, and who knew 9/11 was going to happen, right? 8 years later, but it was like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to focus on my family. I had 2 young daughters, so I very abruptly, about 7 months after that helicopter crash, decided to leave the Army. And when I left, I went from this amazing position of respect in the Ranger Regiment to 2 weeks later, I'm standing in front of a personnel officer for a great big oil and gas company, private company in Kansas. And that's what that human resource person told me. You know, you Army officers, we're good at following orders and doing what you're told, but here at this company, we need people that have initiative, think outside the box, and don't need constant supervision. So if you think about that last sentence, that is when I talk about the 97% of citizens that don't know veterans. That's what they think about veterans. You follow orders, you're robots, you have to be told what to do, you have to be overwatched. So we have to change that. Some of the first people that we have to change that with is us, right? Because a lot of times we carry that with us. Like, I need somebody to give me a mission so I know what to do with my life. Now it's time for you to be your own squad leader, your own platoon leader, your own company commander, and figure that out for yourself. And that's what GallantFew does, in a nutshell. One of the things that I really struggled with, I got out for real the 1st of August 1993. October 1993 was when the Somalia Black Hawk Down thing happened, right? So I knew a lot of the people that were there. And now I'm questioning, should I have stayed in? Could I have potentially made a difference? That kind of stuff will take you down, as many of you know, will take you down a spiral that can absolutely crush your soul and make you think that you don't have any reason to be after the military. So I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't wear a hat that had 1st Ranger Battalion on it because people would go, "You were a Ranger? Tell me about that." And then I have to think about the 12 men that died in that one incident, right? And since then, that number's up to 17. So of men that I know on active duty that have given their lives, and all but one of them were serving in a special operations role when that happened. I just didn't want to talk about it, which meant I avoided situations to talk about it, right? I know there are people, I'd love to have every person here who hasn't stood up here and told your story. I would love to have you come up and tell your story, because that is the first way to get through part of that, right? Because when you find out that other people have not wanted to tell their story because of the pain that it brings to them, when you start talking about it, that pain starts to lower a little bit. And you start educating other people, and you start, even more importantly, honoring those that didn't come back because you're saying their name. So it's really important to do that. And a lot of veterans really struggle with that. So how do we change that? By the way, my buddy Joe Votel is now like in the National Infantry Museum because of his jump into Afghanistan. I meant to pull that out, but that's another thing, right? So I go back to Fort Benning finally after 10 years of being away, and here's his uniform there. And I'm like, God dang it! You know, if I'd have stayed, would I have been his S3 for the Ranger Regiment? Anyway, that can, like I said, that can cause you a lot of issues. So when I finally went back in 10 years after I got out, and I reconnected with my old unit, and I met and talked to a lot of the men who I had served with. Initially, I didn't want to go because I thought they would look at me as a quitter. And they had all gone on to do these things. Joe's uniforms in the National Infantry Museum, you know, a lot of them are now Ranger Hall of Fame and all this other stuff. And here comes Karl, going to come be part of the team that he quit, right? So I was really hesitant about going. And when I walked up to the back of the bleachers, and some of you have heard me tell this before, there's a young Ranger there with a clipboard. And that ranger says, "Sir, what's your name?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just gonna go stand over here. I'm not gonna bother anybody. You know, I'll be out of the way." And he's like, "Sir, tell me your name." And when a young ranger, you know, is like that, you're gonna tell him your name. So I told him my name, looks at his clipboard, and he goes, "Oh, follow me." And Joe had put a seat right dead center in the front of the bleachers where all of the VIPs had reserved seats with their name. Actually, I had my name on one of the seats there. But in that one little act, he showed me that I was still considered part of his team, and he welcomed me there. But that opened the door for me to start talking about my transition experience, and more importantly, to learn about other transition experiences and things that were coming down the pike for a lot of those people, because they weren't talking to counselors and psychologists, they were drinking, or they were over-sexing, or they were over-exercising, or they were doing something to the extreme because they didn't want to face some of the things that were causing them issues. You leave all that stuff untreated, you leave the military and you come back to your community and you still don't go get help, you're one of those that has a very high potential to eat a bullet at some point, because you haven't addressed those things, and you let all of those other things build up in your mind. So GallantFew is all about figuring this out. How do we break people out of this mold? And one of the first ways that we do it is by connection. I love this picture. This was taken on the 75th anniversary of D-Day with a ranger in old World War II uniform, and both of them are active duty now, or at that time. But that was a reenactment of the scaling of the cliffs at Point Hawk. And there's some videos out there that are really cool, so go check it out. But what happened was we started building a ranger network back in 2003 that by 2009 became 1,000 Rangers strong, and that's what actually turned into GallantFew back then. One of the biggest things that I try to pound into people's head, and sometimes I do it gently and sometimes I do it a little more forcefully. I actually had this conversation with a 15-year-old teenage boy at Arlington Mind Over Matter. I'm a master's degree student. I have 9 more days at this adolescent clinic before I've logged all my hours that I need to be able to graduate in May. And it's like hell on earth being in this place, because these kids are dealing with things that are absolutely unbelievable. But this 15-year-old kid does not want to talk to me, and so he just sits back with his eyes closed. And I told him a story. I said, you know, when I was in the Army, get dropped off in the middle of the forest someplace, what's the first thing I got to figure out? I got to know where I am, right? What's the next thing I got to figure out? Where do I want to go? And then the third thing you got to figure out is, how do I get from here to there? And I talked about, you know, I never, while I was deployed in the Desert Storm, was in a combat situation. I never got shot at, never shot at anybody, but we did an exercise in the Joint Readiness Training Center still at Fort Chaffee. And when I was a company commander, I had to navigate a company of 180 soldiers over about 25 clicks a night infiltration to attack an objective on the last day of this big graded exercise. And as I look at, you know, figure out where are we, okay, where's the objective, how are we going to get from here to there? And while I'm plotting this, and by the way, I used this whole example with this kid, and he stayed awake, so I know he was listening because we talked about it later. But as I went through the route, I realized that the enemy was probably going to be on the easy ground, watching for us because they're expecting us to get there as fast as possible. So I plotted, again, middle of the night, so it's kind of hard to see where you're going, but I plotted the route to go through all the intersections of the creeks. And intersections of creeks in Arkansas are the places where all the brambles are, all the mud is, right? That's not where you want to go hiking. But I used that because I could figure out where I was because of the intersection of the creeks. But I figured the enemy probably wasn't going to be there. And I took 180 soldiers on 3 routes, and we made it through and never got picked up by the enemy because they were all sitting on the high ground expecting us to come walking down the trail. So as I'm telling it to this kid, I'm like, so look at your life, right? Where are you right now? You're sitting here in an adolescent mental health clinic. Okay, so that's point A. You know you're here. Where are you going? Where do you want to be? And he says, I got no future. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't have a future, how are you going to plan to get from here to there? He's being sent this week. He got enrolled in an alternative high school where it's basically like a school prison, right? Everything is taken away from them. They got to go to school and learn this stuff so they can move on and graduate. He's like, I'm going to prison school. Okay, so that's one. You're going to go through one of these bramble areas that I was talking about. You got to go through a hard thing so that you can move on towards your objective, right? But you've got to have an objective. Otherwise, that hard thing that you're in is like the end of life, right? Because it sucks to be there, especially if you don't know what's on the other end. So this quote that I stole from Yogi Berra, the great baseball philosopher, he said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up someplace else. And that is what this kid is doing. That's what a lot of men and women that leave the military do, because they leave, they don't really know what they want to accomplish in life or what they want to be, but they know they got GI Bill money, so if they don't want to live at home, they got to go pay for an apartment, which means they got to take classes, which means what, Zach?
You gotta be in school.
You're wasting money because you don't know what you want to be. So you're taking all these classes, right? Our tax dollars are paying for this education that at the end of it, are they really even going to have an education? And in some cases, because they're rudderless, they don't do well in school because maybe they're over-medicating or self-medicating or other things. Then they drop out of school, the VA takes the money back, and now they've got major financial issues. Zach's nodding his head because Zach's been through this, right? So it happens, and it's very, very common. So we got to figure out where are we going, and how are we going to get from here to there. So the next step is the azimuth check. So take out your phones. If you haven't done this, actually if you have done it, because many of you have already done it, take out your phone and do it again. Because this is a snapshot of where you are today. azimuthcheck.org. I'm going to wait a minute for you to go through it. And you're going to have to give us your name and branch of military and your email. But I would appreciate that you do that, because there's a couple of things here. I want you to experience this, and I want you to tell me where it's fouled up so that we can fix it. But I also want your feedback on the resources that we provide to veterans that have taken the azimuth check. And I'll do, can I put you on the spot, Brandon?
Yep.
When you took the azimuth check, what happened?
I stopped drinking. I realized, so when I took the azimuth check, so I guess I'll try to make it short. So when I got out of the military, I medically retired, basically toxic exposure. So that was really hard for me because I actually grew up a very rough childhood, ended up in a boys' home. My family was very violent circumstances. So the military saved my life. So that's why I've always given so much back to the military. And when I got out, or was forced out medical, that was very hard for me because I kind of felt disowned, right? And so I went back and I joined the Border Patrol as a Border Patrol agent to work southern Tucson, Arizona. And I did that for a little while. I struggled with Spanish and I came back home as a police officer. I ended up getting out of that, but all along the time I was kind of drinking a little more. And I thought it was kind of just a good time because, in flight line, you're a flight line guy. It was, if you weren't working, you were drinking, right? It was just kind of what we did. There was not much else to do in the desert. So, anyway, when I met Karl through volunteering with veterans, I took the azimuth check, and it had a part that says, how often do you associate fun with drinking? And I kind of thought about it. I said, every time I go out, and I never thought of myself as an alcoholic, but I was like, every time I go out, I'm thinking about where we're going to go have a drink, where we're going to go to, and it just made me think. It was something I'd never really thought about it, as goofy as it sounds. And so I talked to Karl about it, and I don't remember what happened from there, but I basically I said, you know what, I'm going to stop. And when I stopped, I started having panic attacks, and I never realized that I ended up in the hospital 3 times in 2 days. And I didn't know what it was from, and so I ended up going to the doctor, of course, talking and whatnot, and realized that I had some things I guess I've been holding on to that I never really knew were a problem. I've done probably 300 funerals in the military. I know it always meant a lot to me. But it changed my life. So now I've been just over a year sober, free, and so that part's good, and living my best life, trying to get better every day, following my book in the Bible, and
I appreciate you sharing that, because
He's the reason I'm here.
yeah.
He's the reason I'm here, plain and simple.
And what did you tell me earlier? Put you on the spot.
Well, not a problem with it. I mean, me and Brandon knew each other from the same drinking hole. Hung out all the time, and now, like, he put on his azimuth, his azimuth test that he associated drinking with a good time. I've been drinking so long, so steadily, it was just me trying to keep stable. 15 years, 3 to 4 handles a week, just me, not even counting when I'm going out. Today is 3 weeks without a drink.
Good for you.
people after I began to, it got to the point where I had the DTs, the doctor had to give me some stuff to take care of, because it was, withdrawals, they're a real thing. If anyone tells you they're not, they are. So I needed a few days to detox. I was able, luckily enough, was able to do that at home. I have to go somewhere else. But right as I was coming off that, I knew that my buddy here got sober. He's my crew dog. I was an angel cat. We're very close related in the Air Force. Something just told me, I ain't talked to Brandon in a while. I know he hadn't been drinking. Let me give him a shout. And he introduced me to all. Glad to be here. Just looking for a good place to go and keep moving forward.
Yeah, so isn't that amazing? That's what this is all about, right? You think about how much time, energy, we go through a lot of work to try to raise money through Patriot Challenge, and then sometimes you're like, God, why am I doing all this? And that happens. So it's pretty amazing, and I appreciate it. We did not set this up, by the way.
Do you mind if I give a quick story about a buddy?
Please.
So I won't say who, but someone, actually we know, but there was another veteran. So the drinking hole we used to hang out at, right, it was a local dive, and I liked it there because there was a lot of veterans there, guys my age, which were really hard to find when you got home. So it was that family. That's what I missed the most. Is I really miss that camaraderie. Because in the military, I came from a place where my family wasn't very tight, as I told y'all, right? Because we had things going on. But the military was that family, and so when I found that specific, drinking hole to go hang out after work board, there was a lot of vets there, and I'm going, man, like I was in my element, right? We all kind of shot the stuff, as you'd say. And anyway, another one of our vets was having a hard time, a friend of mine, and I ended up saying, hey man, what's going on? Vehicle got taken, some other stuff like that, repoed. It was just, he was in a really bad situation. He was self-owned business owner, and all his stuff, his tools for the trade were the truck, so he was, without a doubt, out. And so I do some work. I'm a service officer at the American Legion. I've done that for a long time. And so I was trying to get him some help there, contacting different nonprofits that I know, because it's great we work together. Well, Karl and GallantFew jumped in way more than I ever would have thought and asked. The first call was like, hey, we'll put a couple hundred here, blah, 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 and just have them talk to me. Anyway, whenever they talked, Karl got him to open up and found out that this friend of mine that I knew was having trouble, and I had talked to him, and we were good buddies to this day, was literally contemplating putting a bullet in his head one night after a long night of drinking, because he felt his life was downward spiraling, which I think we've all been there emotionally in some way, maybe not to that point, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And so really tells you to keep your eye out for your brother, you know what I mean? Because I can tell you, someone who did funerals a lot, it's a sad thing when you go there and you have to see the family cry and wish that, I wish I would have known he was going through this, because that's hard. I had that happen. My best friend in the military killed himself, and that was really hard for me, because I had to carry his casket and get his mom on the flag, and that was hard. So. And
this guy now has a great job.
Yeah,
right? His life is really, really good, but for a period of time, he's standing with his nose looking straight at this brick wall, not seeing that he's got all this behind him. So thanks, Milo. Take care, buddy. Glad you're here.
Thanks.
He has a birthday party for triplets to get to.
Oh, Grandpa. 3 years old.
That's awesome.
All right, so thank you for that. So there's 5 areas that, as you've gone through the azimuth check that you've seen. We look at 5 areas of fitness, emotional fitness being the first one. And you may have seen one of the first questions under emotional fitness is, I feel guilt for everything that happens. Right? So is that true? Do you really? I have high levels of worry, I think, is one of the other ones. So when somebody rates themselves on this scale, that helps us see where they are right now. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's where they are right now. It's the starting point. So if you're an 8 out of 10 on high levels of guilt, what would your life look like if it was a 5 out of 10? Is there a difference, right? If there's a difference, what does that difference look like? And what do we need to do to help you start charting that path? Just like in my land navigation example, you might have to go through some briars and brambles to get to your objective. But recognizing it, talking about it, making sure that you have the support that you need to get there is key to going. But it's all about intent, intentional. Second one, physical fitness. What's the first thing that goes out the window when you leave the military? You don't have to go to PT formation anymore, right? So no accountability, no physical exercise. I don't know about you, but I kept eating the same number of calories that I had when I was on active duty, but I was not burning the same number of calories. So after I'd been out for about 5 years, I'd put on 30 pounds. I was almost up to 200 pounds. But how do you change that? You change that by putting an intentional plan in place and assessing what you need to do. One of the questions on the azimuth check is I have a group of workout buddies and we meet often, right? We're going to go from here, we're going to go rock climb at some of us are. Right? Not all of you don't have to, I'm not forcing, I'll have a bus outside to take everybody someday. But the point is to find something that works for you, whether it's people that get together and walk in a park, or whether it's people that go rock climbing, or whatever works for you. Find that group, get associated with them, and get active. Because that being active is absolutely incredible or important to improving that level of physical fitness. Spiritual fitness. One of the questions on there is, I feel thanks for my life. And I'm forgetting right now if it's an emotional or spiritual, but our bellwether question is, I believe life is worth living. And that's a 1 to 10, with 1 not at all, 10 being a whole bunch. And if we get somebody that scores below 7, and we get them frequently, then Zach or I or Tony, who's our ranger that runs the program in Columbus, Georgia, we reach out immediately because we want to make sure we're not a crisis intervention organization, right? But we want to touch base, let you know we're here, and do you need help right now? Because we can give you the phone number for the suicide hotline. We can talk to you on the phone while you go to an emergency room. We'll do those kinds of things, right? But we want to make sure that they're not alone. It's incredibly important to do that. People are really, really honest. When you ask them, is life worth living, 1 to 10, they'll tell you, yeah, I think it's a 7 out of 10. Okay, so you tell me 30% chance you'll kill yourself. Right? Why is it not a 10 out of 10? I had one person say, well, it's a 9 out of 10. Well, why isn't it a 10 out of 10? Well, because I haven't died yet, and when I go to heaven, then it'll be a 10 out of 10. But okay, that's a good answer. I can accept that, right? Because it's different for everybody. But the question is, where are you now, and where do you want to be, and what's the difference between, and can we help you chart that path? The next one is professional fitness. What do you think professional fitness is? Anybody?
Way to work.
It's career goals. It's also education, right? It's budget. I've talked to veteran after veteran after veteran who doesn't have a budget. How do you pay your bills? Well, I've got a VA disability that comes in, and I know my bills are this much, and the VA disability is that much. Okay, how much do you have in savings? I don't have any in savings. Why not? Well, because all my money goes to the bills. So you start, okay, can you write out a list of everything that you pay for and identify the date that it's due? And then let's talk about how do you manage your cash flow so that you pay things when they need to get done. One of the things, I'm going to use Zach as an example again. Can I talk about your credit? Is that okay? So Zach grew up thinking credit cards are bad. Don't want credit cards. They're bad, right? You'll spend too much, you'll get a bad credit rating. And so he was using a debit card to manage his finances. But if you go more than 3 or 4 withdrawals with your debit card, then you start paying a fee for every time you use the debit card. So Zach would go get $400 or $500 at a time, and then he would use that to pay his bills. Somebody broke into his truck, stole his envelope that had, $900 or $500 or something in it. And so Zach's like, well, now I don't have any money to pay my bills. We'll use a credit card. We'll figure this out. I don't have a credit card. Like, holy crap. So we sit down, we talk about why credit is good, how do you manage that, and what's your credit rating now has gone, what's the old to new? You don't have to say what the number is, but just the difference.
It was 4, so like high 4s to good now, like high 6s, low 7s, something like that.
So he if in the 800 point scale, he improved 120 points.
Oh, what's 250?
Yeah. So just by putting a budget on paper, managing cash flow, and using a credit card to pay for things. Hey, if you know you're gonna put $200 worth of gas in your truck every month, put it on a credit card, and then pay it off when the bill comes, right? So you always keep a zero balance.
Keep 20% on the credit card, pay it off as it goes, and that's what they're looking at best.
But anyway, there's strategies like that some of the younger veterans don't know, and then they get into trouble. And if the example that I had, school doesn't work out and the VA takes the money back, now it can be financially devastating. And the last one, social fitness. Social fitness, that question that you were talking about, the only places I go for fun are bars. 1 to 10. You have to think about that. Is that a lot like me or is that a little like me? He realized that's a lot like me, and he realized that wasn't what he wanted to be like. So he made an intentional choice. So the power of the azimuth check is you self-assess, and a lot of times it's like opening your eyes. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this is where I am. I'm going to put something in place. And we have veterans like Brandon that they take the ball and run with it and make immediate changes. And we don't have to do anything other than provide the azimuth check to them. There are other veterans that we got to go piece by piece, line by line through the azimuth check. How do we work on improving your fitness in each one of these areas? And that's why we raise money, because it's his full-time job, it's my full-time job, it's Tony Main's full-time job, and we need more of us to do it because we don't have enough. That's just a kind of an example of what we track on the back end, so we can see if somebody takes several azimuth checks and all of a sudden there's a dip, we go, oh, something happened. Let's get on the phone and talk and find out what's going on. Why did you have a couple of points drop here? So it's a way that we can kind of manage and watch that. That's a group of a bunch of Marines and some Army folks that outdoor rock climbing a couple of years ago. We were at, I want to say that was New River Gorge, but this is a group that we have climbing here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's one of the, when we talk about that physical fitness side, it also combines the social aspect of everybody gets together and they go do something fun. Sometimes we take everybody outside, a lot of times it's inside. But we've got even guys like Mark, who's triple amputee, blind in one eye. He's climbing. So, you know, it's like there are not many excuses for not being able to climb when you look at a guy like that that does it. And one of the other things that I almost forgot to mention about the azimuth check is we encourage non-veterans to take it too. Right? We like to call them patriots. One of the problems is, politically over the last couple of years, the word patriots got a little bit of a tarnish to it. So, yeah, unfortunately, but we say if you're not a veteran and you support veterans, you're a patriot. So we want patriots to go take the azimuth check, because think about Trophy Club and the 12,000 people that live here, of which, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred are veterans. If 8,000 other people take the azimuth check and they make their levels of fitness better, guess what? It's better for the veterans because the community's better, right? So we want anybody and everybody to take the azimuth check. We got a group of business people that meets monthly. Talked about Patriot Challenge a little bit. I've showed that before. I want to especially say thanks to Classic Chevrolet. If you need to go buy a new car, visit Classic, because they for the last third year in a row, they've given more than $40,000 to GallantFew's mission per year. So they've committed, they've renewed us again for this year. It's always a competitive process. They pick about 10 to 12 nonprofits every year that they support, and they have kept us in. And Mylan was a huge piece of introducing us to the people that got us in there. If you know somebody like a Classic Chevrolet that we need to talk to, that would be willing to help support our mission, please let me know so we can talk to them. And my contact information is there. So I went just about 5 minutes longer because we had some great personal stories. But anybody comments, questions? Sir?
Part of the business part of the presentation of Karl is getting a job. I'm a headhunter. I've been 10 years in corporate America, 40 years in executive search. So I'm one of the classmates that I identified just was elected to the leadership of the VFW. And so he's a classmate of mine. I'm trying to match him with another nonprofit. And that nonprofit is therapeutic writing for veterans and disabled people. But I'll give my business card to Karl, Kelly, Zach, and if you're interested in finding a job, I'll help you. So I can do resumes. I've done recruiting at all different levels, all different industries. So let me hear from you.
What he was just talking about the
Question?
the riding, the equestrian stuff.
Right.
We have one very close here, and it's very active.
Victory
veterans and a lot of people that have problems. It's right at 377 and 1171 Southeast Corner.
They have a veteran program.
They have a good veterans program.
You don't have to have a horse. They got horses.
Yeah.
Horses.
Just gotta be smart enough not to walk behind.
I have a daughter from a first marriage that was disabled and was one of the original writers in eQuest. And I then became a board member, president of eQuest, and I started serving on the national board, and I became president of 500 organizations with 25 disabled equestrians. Part of right now, I'm doing research on what veterans programs are out there with the therapeutic riding programs nationwide, so I can match those up with my buddy, who's a classmate at the VFW, to then improve not only funding, but also introduction of programs for therapeutic riding to veterans. PTSD, there's clinical trials that have been done. I need to publicize that. So there's.
I wrote a paper on that. I can give you a copy.
Do you? Okay, all right. So there's a lot of things. I like the organization, the feel of this organization. So I'm committed.
Glad you came today.
Carl,
Kathy.
just quickly, just to reinforce your comment about your interview process when you first got out. I encountered the exact same thing with the company that I'm still working at after 22 plus years, but, and a gentleman who's no longer at that company, he asked me, could I be an individual contributor? That, you know, as an officer, you know, I was used to managing and telling people, right, what to do. And could I be that office, like he had no idea that officers were individual contributors or manage people all at the same time, right? I mean, how many times have, you know, you pull a cable or put up antennas or you put up your stick-up tents or you put up your own, I mean, you know, we put up our own tents, you know, because everybody in the team would join something else, right? I mean, how many times I put up antennas and cables? I mean, but that was, it was so interesting that, and that was my first time that I had ever encountered that. I'm shocked that actually did, had no idea.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so in the interest of time, we need to close out. You guys want to stick around and visit with each other, you're more than welcome to. Don, can I put you on the spot? You want to take us out? You want to take us out? Give us a blessing?
I can't hear, but.
What? You want to give us a blessing? Close us out?
We've got a lot to pray for in this country of ours. Let's look to the Lord, shall we? Father in heaven, we appeal unto you now at this time. Father in heaven, we just ask you to undertake for us by the Holy Spirit that's in the world today. Thank you for the love of Christ. And most of all, Lord, we need your help. There was a time when we asked you to leave, and you left. And now we need help. And we pray that you'll help our nation, Lord. Father in heaven, thank you for the men and women that are here that have served. Thank you so much. And then, Lord, dismiss us, use us for your glory, and to help our country. We pray it all through your Son's name and thy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.